Welcome back to Living the Questions podcast. I am so excited to have a really special week this week for the podcast, which is that for the first time ever, we are doing back to back guest weeks. And also, this episode is airing earlier than it usually does. We're airing it on a Tuesday instead of our typical Thursday. And the reasoning for that is actually because the guest that is on this episode and I have co created a container that we're really excited to invite people into that is going to start next week. And so the invitation of this episode, beyond our typical invitation, to, is to get to dive deeper into what that contain a little bit of what that container holds, to get to feel into the energy of the conversations and spaces that Kylie and I create together and what that feels like. And if you're curious about that conversation or doing work with us, that potentially this helps to offer you a feel of what that might look like, and invite you into that 7-week journey with us if you're interested in continuing to have conversations with us and to dive deeper um, into all different sorts of conversations that are connected to much of what we talked about in this episode today. But beyond that, we also have just had our own podcast episode today. And as we typically do, dove right into conversation about the questions that Kylie is up to in her life right now and what that looks like. And we got to tap into different parts of things like the initiation and invitation into motherhood and what that has looked like for her for the last 2.5+ years, what that looked like, what some invitations were prior to that actually have led into a beautiful foundation for motherhood for her and her journey, and also what it looks like to be called to weaving work that speaks to your soul back into your life as you've walked through the threshold of something like motherhood and you have this weave come back in. What does it look like to bring all of that to life and hold all of these things in integrity and um and really step into what that means for you? And we dove into other pieces like um the beauty and devastation of grief, and also the invitation of things like joy and how we may block both of those things, and they're very closely related in what they actually could potentially offer to our whole selves and to one another, the connection point that they actually bring to each other. We talk about many a thing, so I will let you get up to it in the episode and hear our conversation and dive deep in with us. And also, we do share a little bit about our container. And if you're interested, I will put the information in the show notes for you to explore. And if nothing else, I am so glad that you are here to just be here for this conversation and get to dive deep with us here. And may this meet you where you are wanting to be met. May it invite curiosity even a little bit more deeply inside of you today. And may it invite you to really honor the questions you're living into in this world, in your life right now, in whatever season you find yourself in. Thank you for being here. I'm so excited to welcome our guest today, who is my sweet and dear friend, Kylie McBeath, who I just absolutely adore getting to do life beside and dive deep into what life is about and what the lived experience is inviting forward in us. I feel like our conversations continue to be a distillation of what wisdom is wanting to be invited forward, what things are coming up for us, what curiosities are coming up through that, and how to further further live into that, further gain clarity through that, further question through that, and get to explore side by side. That's just such a fun part of life for me. And I'm so grateful to get to do that with her fiercely loving and beautifully, beautifully explorative soul. So I'm so grateful. If you haven't met Kylie before, I am so excited for you to meet her in this conversation and to dive deep with us. If you have, I hope this only deepens the beautiful relationship you already have and conversations you have likely had with her that are just always so sweet and profound to me. So without further ado, I welcome Kylie McBeath. Welcome back to Living the Questions podcast. Today, I am so delighted, as I tend to be every single time I get to sit down and have the honor of diving in deep in conversation with humans I love. Today, I get to be with the lovely, lovely Kylie McBeath, a dear friend and adventure partner in this world in every sense of the word. I am so excited to be here, getting to jam with you today and getting to just hear the wisdom of the questions you are living into, to jam on some things we've been jamming on for a bit, and to just, yeah, share space with your beautiful heart and get to share that with those who are listening. So, welcome, Kylie. Thank you for being here.
Court, it's an honor to be here. And every single time I connect with you, I always leave feeling more alive, love, joy. So I'm like giddy. I'm feeling that. I'm like, yay. I
I
get to
love
hang out with one of my favorite humans.
Likewise. I want to kick us off with a question. I feel really called, instead of asking, like, what do you do for a living, to say, what is it that brings you most alive in this world? What invites you to be more of you?
Mm, what a beautiful question, Court. Of course it is. You're the question master, maestra. Um, gosh, how I'm going to answer this has changed so much in the last couple of years, but motherhood. I'm a mom to a beautiful son, and that role and initiation has really sharpened, um, yeah, how I define myself in this world and my work. You know, stewarding human consciousness is sacred work, big work, deep work, and I feel so honored that I get to do that in this lifetime. Um, some other pieces that bring me alive are ceremony. I'm a ceremonialist. I love to sit in ceremony circle with women and yeah, just be truly with the earth, with hearts, with feelings, with the deepest dream seeds that women hold, and explore what might be getting in the way of them moving towards those deeper callings. And then I'd say the place where I feel, in addition to ceremony, most connected to my soul and my soul's work is I'm a writer. I love to write. I love so much to write and just see what kind of wants to be woven with words in that creative space.
You are such a beautiful writer. I mean, and this comes through in our conversations too, right? It's like the way that your brain thinks about things, the way that your heart feels about things, the way that you alchemize the lived experience and create tangible wisdom in your words through that is really powerful. So thank you for the gift of that.
Thank you, love. Thank you.
Yeah.
It's like therapy for me.
Yeah.
Writing is therapy. I know I see a bunch of other writers. I've been on Substack lately, and it's so funny because kind of feel like I found my crowd where it's like everybody's a writer and they talk about the creative process of writing and how it's just like therapy, getting all of those thoughts, feelings, alchemizations into words and like out into the world. Um, so thank you for that reflection. That means a lot.
Yeah. I love that so much. I find that with I do like writing, but I find like verbal processing is my thing, as you know, through many voice notes I send. But
I
I
do
find
know.
it's true. It just feels like there's something about that. The transmutation of that is really powerful, however it speaks to you. And yeah, that just is a real gift when you find your people who speak a similar language or use the same tool, and
Yeah.
that in itself is a language.
That's why you have a podcast.
Yeah, that's right.
Here we are.
And here
That's
we
why we're talking.
are.
I
And
love it.
speaking of the namesake of the podcast, what is the question that you are currently living into in your life?
Yeah, the most topical question is how does my soul's work fit into my life now as a mother? Um, in my marriage, I feel like you bring a soul through, you become a mother, and then literally everything changes. Like overnight, everything just boom. The life you thought you were living before is like completely um dismantled in the most beautiful ways to yeah, to have you ask deeper questions. Motherhood is has really invited me to ask such deeper questions about life in general and where I spend my energy, my time, my resource. What am I building? What am I co-creating? What am I moving towards with every single action and choice for the betterment of life on this planet for my son and for the next generation? Um, so with that, I'm very passionate about, yeah, the stewardship of the next generation in my role as mother, but, or I should say, and with that is my soul's work. And so, yeah, I'm really sitting with like, how do I hold all of it? And
Mhm.
not in like the cultural cliche way of like, you can do it all.
Yeah.
Um, because because there are sacrifices on all sides of the equation. And it's like, what is actually in deeply alignment with this season of my life so that I can show up um, first and foremost as a mother and as a wife. And then, yeah, where does my work fit into all of that in a good way?
Mm.
That's the question I'm holding and letting it really sharpen me.
Yeah, it's a big one. It's a very big one. And I feel like as you were just, what you were just saying at the end there made me think, or I'm curious, what have you found yourself being called to let go of that felt easeful? And what have you found yourself being called to let go of that maybe was a bit more of a challenge?
Hmm. Easeful Instagram. Oh my gosh. I don't know why, but for some reason, I have just not been inspired by that platform. I built my whole life and business on that platform and devoted so much time and energy in the last 10 years. But since becoming a mother, it's kind of just been like a no.
Mm.
And that's been really interesting for me to just be like, okay, but yeah, I'm feeling called to, or at least for me, where there's more of an experience of depth. And yeah, I just feel like my innermost workings in my private life are kind of being kept in that space now. Whereas before it was just me, so I could share and it was like relational stuff and it was more um freely moving. But now it's not that anymore. So it has felt very easy to let go of Instagram. I didn't see myself going in that direction on this podcast, but here we are. And if you follow me on Instagram, you know that I've only posted what, like 4 or 5 times in the last year. And it's because it's very hard for me to do things that aren't in alignment. Like
Mhm.
I'm actually the worst. Like for all the marketing strategies and this and that. I know there's rhyme and reason to all of it, but I'm just like, I literally can't.
Mhm.
So that has felt easeful. And then what hasn't? I don't know, Court. I think it really has, in some regard, and I feel very blessed to say that it. it has felt really easy to hit a pause button on a lot for me.
Hmm.
Like it's almost like I was ready to hit a pause button in my life, um, and devote truly, I would say 100%, almost 100% of my energy towards motherhood, especially in the first 18 months.
Hmm.
It's like I really did hit a pause button. Of course, we launched a book during that time. And so I had to come out of my cocoon and be on podcasts and show face and all that, which was kind of a trip now looking back. I'm like, I don't even know how I was functioning. I'm like, what was I even saying? I'm like, oh my gosh. Asterisk, don't launch a book during postpartum. No, I'm just kidding. Kind of. Um, so as I'm coming back around, my son's 2.5 now. So I'm like re-emerging into this space and it's like, okay, what don't I want to give up? What do I want to reweave back into my life? And for me, a lot of that is actually um the work I do with women. I love sitting with women in circle. I love um yeah, I love the work that I get to do in those spaces and containers that I co-create. So I'm not going to let it go. I'm going to weave it back in a new way, in a way that works now, right? In a way that's in alignment with my capacity and what I can hold well. And it's all a test still, you know?
Yeah. Right. So it sounds like you've been able to take a pause to almost see all of what did and did not necessarily work and all that you were in some ways. Even though that's not what the pause was for, it sounds like it served that purpose also. And now that you're finding yourself invited back into the space of wanting to do your soul's work alongside of this soul's work that you're doing as a mother, that you're getting the like amazing opportunity to say, "Oh, I see more clearly now what works for me, what doesn't, and what I want to
Mm,
try
yeah.
because it feels more in alignment and I want to just see, does this work and can I weave this back together in this way?" Am I getting that right?
You nailed it. That's exactly right. It's like, okay. And I feel so blessed to be able to hit that pause button,
Yeah.
to be able to be like, okay, let's hit the pause button. Let's go fully all in on being present for this baby.
Mm.
And then, yeah, to finally get to this place where there's like some creative movement again is like really cool. And I also, to some degree, really acknowledge myself for like honoring that timeline
Mm.
of honoring that pause so that I can come back in a really like congruent way.
Yeah. Yeah. Do you feel like motherhood has taught you presence or taught you presence in a very different way than you had maybe known it before?
Let me just tell you a little side story.
That pause was amazing.
Oh my gosh, it's so funny. Mark and I, when we had relationship 1.0, we took a sacred pause for the listeners who haven't heard my story, and then relationship 2.0, we got back together. And in that pause, Mark got a dog. His name's Carl. And I remember entering back into relationship 2.0, and it's like, I did not agree to said dog. As a traveler who doesn't like strings attached and was like kind of in my I'm a sovereign woman, I can do what I want era. Having this like innocent being kind of enter into the field was like, oh, he has needs too. And you need to meet his needs. And like it was like, and I had just came to this place in my life where I had felt like I finally had the permission to honor my own needs. Do you know what I mean? Where you're like,
Totally.
I worked so effing hard to get to this place where I could name my own needs, honor my own needs, feel competent enough to move towards meeting my needs and desires. And now it was like this other being. And it was so funny because it wasn't really about the dog, but it was everything that it was bringing up, this like sacred tension of like, I don't want to. I don't want to take the dog out and do this and do like, just like because of where I was at in my own phase. And it's funny now, like looking back on it, it's like that's my like teenager self that was just like wanting to throw a fit. But I actually really had to work through that court where
Mm.
it was like, okay, Kai, your needs still matter. You can still meet your needs and be in relationship to the dog, to another, etc.
That's huge.
It was big.
Yeah.
It was really big. And I'm so happy I got that lesson with Carl, the dog, and not
Yeah.
with my son, because I'm like,
Sure.
listen, chick, your needs, they matter as a mother, but let me tell you, your needs, they become maybe a list of 10, go down to a list of 2. At least for me, it was like, I need to shower and I need nourishment, and sleep, like 3 needs. And that was enough for me to like feel really good, and movement after I felt recovered enough. Anyways, to kind of to kind of full circle roundabout it back. Yeah, it's changed dramatically.
Mhm.
My consciousness, which was, moving from more of a self-centered, and not in like a bad way, but just like
Sure.
me, right? Moved to survival of another being.
Mhm.
And that responsibility kind of requires a different level of presence,
Mhm.
um, than you can imagine,
Yeah.
because you are now responsible for taking care of and meeting the needs of another vulnerable human being who you love more than anything else on the planet. It's like a trip.
Mm.
So like all the hormones, everything, you're just like, yeah, it's beyond court. It's beyond any presence you ever thought
I love
you
that.
had. Like, and that's what mother does. It expands your capacity to hold. I mean,
Mm.
and don't get me wrong, we have a lot of narratives in our culture of like the martyr mother, the self-sacrificed mother. And I get it. Like, we're living in a culture that does not honor mother, that does
Mhm.
not support mother, that doesn't honor family. And luckily there's a lot of conversations that are kind of counteracting that, and like people redesigning and reweaving a life that actually does place mother family at the center again, which I'm really excited about. But um I think I'll hit a pause there because I could go on a full rant.
No, that was beautiful. I think there's so much here, and I really love, I want to acknowledge your, right, like you had called it like your inner teenager self. There sounds like there was in that journey that you had between 1.0 and 2.0, and I would say maybe self like 12.0 at that point, probably in your
Totally.
life or more. It sounds like that reclamation was so empowering on your own. And then that's the one thing in life where we realize that like the real ball game is in relationships, is in relation to another, to um yeah, that's just where our feet are to the fire. That's where we really get the practice in. We can learn all of this stuff and get strong in a space that feels a little bit more of solitude. And that's beautiful and that's necessary and that's medicinal. And then when we're in relationship, we have to practice those things. And when part of that is what I was hearing in what you shared and felt resonant to myself is like, I just learned how to take good care of my needs and share them out loud and let them be seen. Please don't take that away. And that pendulum swing, that natural pendulum swing of figuring out that there's so much more than just this or that is
Yeah.
so powerful. And I love that you got that opportunity to weave then into being a mother. It just sounds like it set the table in a really profound way that isn't always a given before we step into that role,
Yeah.
that cross that threshold. So amazing.
I mean, it's a lesson that I come back to often. Is
Mhm.
like, okay, what are my needs and how do I bring those forward? And how do we, one of the big questions Mark and I, my husband and I, held during the first year postpartum, which, wow. Mark and I wrote a relationship book. I'm like, shit, we should probably record. No, I'm just kidding. I'm like, we got a lot more to talk about, friends. Um, yeah, no, just like feet to the fire. Postpartum is a feet to the fire moment for all involved. And yeah, one of the questions I really held in that is like, how do we how do we increase the capacity of our family system
Mm.
so that our family nervous system can find more regulation, so that we can find more space and ease where everyone's needs are, at least being tended to and met in a good way.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, it's still a
It's a
question
smart
we live
question.
into. We're figuring it out
Yeah.
day by day, but it's a big question. Is like, yeah, how do we all stay well, you
Mhm.
know?
Well, and it requires, but it asks, I think it's more of an invitation, but it is necessary if you're wanting that to be the end goal. But it's inviting everyone to show up in that. And to
Yeah.
also, when you have a little one involved in that, to discern what that is early on before that little person can show up with more of who they are. They're showing up with who they are all the time in all different ways, but until they are able to do it in a way that feels like they're um yeah, like they're owning their voice, their wants, their needs in ways that feel like yeah, when that comes online, I think like there's something beautiful about that where they're a part of that invitation too. It just sounds
Yeah.
powerful to me to have that be a collaborative invite that you all need to be present for.
Yeah. And I really, it's, I was telling Mark this the other day.
Mm,
It, Jasper's 2.5, and I've said that a few times, but he'll say, Mom, I'm feeling sad, or Mom, I'm frustrated, or Mom, I'm excited, or Mom, I'm scared. And I like sit with that and I'm like, how cool is it
mhm,
that this little dude knows how to name his emotions? And then, like, the next part is like, okay, what are the needs underneath those emotions? I'm like, I did this when I was 30,
right.
30 something. And now I'm like, it's so cool to me how like you could see it in real time when
Yeah.
it's like just available for the younger generation. I'm like,
Mm,
oh my gosh, this kid's gonna know exactly what he needs, know how
mhm.
to speak it, and know how to process his emotions. What in the actual like that's
Totally.
amazing. I'm like, I just learned how to do that 8 years ago. Cool. Kudos, like it's just such a trip, Court.
I love that because I
Yeah.
think we as a society, I think have slept on how brilliant children actually are from the get. Like I just think it's so pure and amazing. And I think too about like when we're doing inner child work, there's so much wisdom that are like we as adults now are connecting to that inner
Mm,
child, which only goes to show even further you were that too. You just didn't, you're just getting to know that now because you're having a reconnection moment with that inner child if you're doing that work. So I love this invitation of thinking like just honoring the wisdom that is a completely free and playful and curious and wonderful brand new being in this world. Like I like that just fills my whole body with goodness just saying those words because it's a really special
mm,
thing and I think we could regard our children more in a big way with the wisdom that they bring with the things that they can remind us that we've forgotten. There's just something there.
I mean, there's something really big there.
Yeah.
In a lot of that regard, in my experience, from a community perspective or from a cultural perspective, would be holding a mother with regard to the
Mm,
same, because the mother is that child's, in the, like, of course, the family ecosystem, but the mother is responsible for tending to, for a
yeah.
majority of us, like to all of those core needs. Her nervous system, when it is regulated, when it is resourced, provides the foundation for the child's nervous system. So if we want to revere our children, we really need to revere our mothers as
Mm,
well.
yeah.
Because when our mothers are revered, then that same level of care, nurturance, that's just like innate. It's
Mm.
biological. From now, of course, there are some outliers there. I can already hear them in my um, but it's like for the most part, um, yeah, when the mom is well, then
Mhm.
yeah, that that means the children usually have a better chance of being well, more resourced, more regulated.
Yeah.
And yeah, I hope that and wish that for all mamas and babies and fathers and all humans, really.
Mhm. Yeah. And this immediately makes me think, is this part of the work that you are wanting to weave into the world as you step into what you're wanting to do now that you are feeling invited back into something or something different?
Oh, yeah. I'm feeling spicy, Court. I don't know why. I always go on these sacred pauses and then I come back and I am spicy. I'm like, ooh, I got some thoughts and feelings and yeah, things that really matter to me.
Yeah.
Um, and so yeah, so much of the conversation I'm looking to have right now is like, how do we increase our capacity to receive and be resourced so that we can be well?
Mhm.
How do we heal from the roots up our connection to the earth, reconnect to source, divine, God, goddess, spirit, whatever word you want to fill in there, um, so that we can lean back, so that we can soften, so that we can surrender into a deeper knowing and path that is available to all of us.
Yeah. What an
Like,
invitation.
what an invitation, right? I
Yeah.
don't know. I'm one of those humans I've always sat with this question. I think it's hysterical. It's like, it, imagination, perception, like if they are available to us and we have like this ability to perceive life, etc., in any certain way, why wouldn't we choose like a perception that would support us and moving forward and thriving? And like I get why we wouldn't. Like
Mhm.
I'm sitting with that, even I can answer the question. It's like, well, of course it's vulnerable to reopen after being experiencing disregard, dehumanization, etc. Of
Yeah.
course, because you don't want to open your heart to that again. And
Mm.
it's like, but that's the work. You
Yeah.
know, how do we find those spaces, places, people, communities to support us in that softening process, in that thawing process, so that we can return and remember who we are?
Yeah. How have you lived into this in your life that has made this a spicy thing that you're like, I want to talk about this. I want to do work in this way. Like what has living into the question that is rumbling inside you right now looked like, and why is it speaking to you so profoundly right now, do you think?
Well, I think so much of my journey on this earth has had to do with like reclaiming like sovereignty
Mm.
or reclaiming the ability to step into possibility.
Yeah.
And what I mean by that is I'm a dreamer
Mm.
and I'm an idealist. My husband makes fun. He's like, "Oh my gosh, the way you see the world." He said something the other day. He was like, "Gosh, you live in a I forgot what type of world he described it. It's like, yeah, because I'm not here to just agree with the way things have been. I'm here to reweave a new way forward. Like I'm here to plant new seeds of possibility."
Mhm.
I wasn't always that way. No, of course not. In my 20s, oh my gosh, I gripped onto reality and to pieces and pillars of control like you had never gripped onto anything before because I didn't have the internal foundation of safety, of regulation, of any capacity to be able to hold that yet, but I was after it.
Mm.
And one of the big components for me in my journey, um, in being able to step forward into dreaming, into possibility, has been my relationship to money. It's a
Mm.
big piece. And
Mhm.
I've gone every single way with money.
Mhm.
I'm telling you, like where I just wanted to fight against the machine and capitalism and tear it out. Like, I was like so pissed. I was like, why does money even exist? I want to go back in time to hunter gatherer day. Like, I've gone in every direction with this because I'm like, it has created so much stuff for us as humans.
Yeah.
And with that being said, it's a very real part of the human experience at this time. And so what does it look like for me to be in right relationship with it?
Mm,
Um, so for me, someone in my early 20s, who continually found herself in codependent dynamics
mm,
where I was sourcing that safety and security through men because I didn't actually believe in my own capacity
mm,
to stand on my own 2 feet, to survive on my own, to make money, to make like all of this stuff. It was just like not even an option for me in my mind. Um, all of my 20s were spent working through that,
mm,
working through what I call that money or mother limit of like, I've never seen it modeled in my lineage.
mm,
Women were always dependent on men for their survival. So stepping beyond that felt like scary, to be honest. It felt like, ooh, this goes against the survival instructions that have been handed down for me for thousands of years. So maybe just stay in your lane, be quiet, go along to get along, and then you'll be safe. Everything will be good. And just wasn't an option for my soul anymore. I was like, nope, I got to know that I can be okay on my own.
yeah.
Like it was just something that I needed to personally experience. Not everybody needs to experience this in their lifetime. We all are walking different paths. But for me, that individuation of being financially, um, like having financial agency was imperative
Yeah.
because I needed to know no matter what happens, I could stand on my own 2 feet,
Mm,
which gave me the permission to speak my truth in the world,
mm,
to hold a different and higher bar of integrity in all my relationships because I wasn't sourcing from it.
mm,
So, um, what's really cool about finding and working through those blocks is like getting to this place of like, okay, I trust myself. I can do it. But then you cross the threshold into mother and you're like, yeah, you can do it, but do you want to do it? Right? It's like, okay, so codependence, independence. So what does interdependence look like? And motherhood has been that chapter.
mm,
It's like, what does interdependence look like? Like, how can I receive when I need to receive and ask for support when I need to ask for support? And let me tell you, it is, even with all the work previously, um, it hasn't always been easy in the
yeah.
journey. Of course not.
Mhm,
Um, so yeah, that's what I'm really softening into now is like this, like, what is the way?
mm,
Um, with knowing that I can depend on myself, which gives me the freedom to really like soften and receive in general because I know that to be true, I can still be honest with the world and myself.
yeah.
So that's kind of where what's brewing.
I love that. Yeah, this relationship to self peace. I feel like I'm always so curious about it. There's some journey that I'm for sure on in this world. I tether it through astrology sometimes because it makes the most sense when I can like actually put words to it, and for some reason that tool helps me put words to it.
Yeah.
And I find that I'm in a journey where um, I'm learning what it means to not abandon self, but include self, and
Mm,
it's a really tricky one when what you've come into this life knowing really well is how to take care of anything else and push yourself to maybe just like it just doesn't even exist. It's not even to the back burner. It's beyond that. It's
mm,
off the table.
mm,
And when that's become so familiar, to come back to
mm,
including self in this equation is Herculean in a lot of ways. It feels like there is an for me, I still find that there's an overthinking process that happens where I feel like I almost have to caveat if I'm talking about thinking about myself and my wants and my
mm,
needs. I also have to be like, but I'm not forgetting these
mm,
people. And I notice that need to do that as if one is taking place of the other one. And I think there's oh man, like this is the gold that life is offering, right? For me to dig into this and live into that and teach from that space for sure. But even as I was hearing you share this, I was so moved by what you're weaving into this in your own self journey and how you're able to like to bring that piece forward with integrity in this as you're um honoring community, honoring family, honoring your
Mm.
lineage, and reclaiming this space where you're like, oh, but I want to heal certain things here. And actually, that does contribute beyond me. I just feel like I'm hearing so much of the both and in what you were sharing about self. And that is really powerful to witness and hear from someone as someone who is finding their way still and likely always to that
You're
sweet
human
balance
too.
and healing for sure. And rehumanizing myself in that process. I mean, it's the
Yeah.
deepest invitation to rehumanizing
Mm.
self, um, is that journey, is that closing of the gap there.
Mm. That's so beautiful. And I love the way you describe that as like, right, like the interdependent nature of life,
Hmm.
right? Can I hold my center
Hmm.
and still have regard to all of our relations
Hmm.
while anchoring in regard to self, right? As a part of that full ecosystem.
Yeah.
That's really the way forward, in my opinion.
Hmm.
But even as you're saying that, I'm like, oh, it's so interesting. It's like, what narratives even come up around like you having wants and desires?
Hmm.
Like
Hmm.
just like, ooh, that's getting a little, am I getting too big? Am I getting too bold? Am I asking for too much? All of those kind of narratives that kind of
Yeah.
start to pop into our heads of like, okay, keep it down. Like, am I taking from somebody else or am I getting too needy or whatever the narrative might be or what we've been told? Or am I bumping up against that, mother limit where it's like, ooh, we don't go past that. You're allowed to have this, but actually don't go too far that way. And this is something that I've sat with many mentors is this question to wield more financial power. It's been really interesting. Um, because like in my mind, I see people with financial power and agency and I'm like, gosh, what are they doing with those resources? I'm like, we got some stuff to do. And I'm not saying that all people are like this, but I'm like, I want to be building an eco village and having a school that's rooted in the earth. And how do we save that river? And how do it's just like, and so it's like, yeah, we need more souls who are connected
Yeah.
to this interdependent fabric of life to advocate in ways that the Mother Earth, the children, the animals are asking us to, you
Mhm.
know?
Yeah. Oh, I feel like that could be the
I know.
whole question that we're living into in this podcast.
It's a big one.
It's everything.
It really is.
It's everything. I think, yeah, I think it's really interesting to be at a place where I feel like I don't know, it's such a big question that it could be overwhelming if you find yourself to be someone who is avoiding the mirror of things, which we all do
Mm,
at different times in all different ways.
yeah.
Even if you've seen the mirror, there are also times where you're like, I didn't realize I was still avoiding other ones. So
Hmm.
that's always a fun part of life. But
Yep.
I think when we're open when we choose to be open enough, it doesn't become as overwhelming of a question. It actually, or yeah, it actually turns into, to me, it sounds like an invitation that I want to step into, that I want to get curious around, that I want to walk forward and live into the answer to, because there's so much life within that, so much less overwhelm and so much more
Mm.
life. It's like taking those blockers you were mentioning. There's so much that we don't even realize blocks us from connection to self, from connection to each other, from remembering that we are nature. And when we start to recognize those blocks, I like knowing in my own body as like my own somatic experience with it that it feels like a breath of fresh air. It doesn't feel constricting. It actually feels like I want to lean towards it, to switch from overwhelm to aliveness. I don't know. There's something really cool to me about
Yeah.
recognizing that right now as you offer that big question.
Inspiration,
Yeah.
imagination,
Yeah.
aliveness. Right. And I think it really comes back to like what our role here is
Hmm.
on the planet,
Yeah.
you know? And each of us might have a different understanding of that, but I believe we are stewards of the earth and we are here to protect the earth and all living beings, all of life. And so, yeah, how do I get to wake up and live that every day? You know, it's a big
Yeah.
question. And I could be doing better in so many different ways, but it's like you said, it's kind of like that guidepost of remembrance of like continually to move forward and align with that deeper level of remembrance with
Yeah.
my core values.
Well, and it also sounds too like, well, one, I hear you humanizing yourself too, where you're like, I could do better. And also you are showing up every day with what you have and remaining curious and open and meeting yourself in congruence, like so that you can
Yeah, yeah,
be
yeah.
where you are. But I also heard how you're living into the question that you brought here, which is that you wake up every day with that question and you're living into it. You're
Yeah.
deciding that your purpose here, what you know your purpose to be and what it continues to evolve to become, like you recognize that and you put that as something that you're going to live into in big and small ways each day, it sounds like. And that's how you're living into your question, if I'm hearing you right.
That's it, Court. I mean, that's why I work with women because
Yeah.
it anchors around the same belief. I believe if we heal,
Hmm.
if women heal, if humans heal, then the earth heals. Like we're direct mirror of each other.
Hmm.
And so like when we stop extracting, exploiting even woman,
Hmm.
then hopefully those patterns of extraction, exploitation of the earth stop. It's like this like beautiful understanding of our interconnected nature with the planet we inhabit. So for me, yeah, it's like it's the reason I do everything.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
You sound empowered, which is really beautiful to hear.
thanks,
Grounded
love.
and empowered.
Thanks, love.
Yeah.
I yeah.
Mm.
I was sitting in a women's circle recently and I was like, gosh, I just want more
Hmm.
for humanity, for women, for mothers, for children, for fathers, for all humans. Like I just want more and not in like an accumulation way, but
Yeah.
just like more beauty, more ease, more love, more connection, more peace. Um and I was like kind of crying. I was like more community, more village, like what the heck happened? And I remember one of the women in the circle, I'd never met her before, and she's like, keep following that. She's like, that's like reweaving the way forward. And it was like such a beautiful mirror in that moment. Cause
Yeah.
I could sometimes feel like, oh my gosh, you're going for too much. You're wanting too much. But she was like, no, no, no. That's guiding every single step of the journey. And I'm like, yeah, it is. I was like, that grief is actually the doorway into, yeah, into what it is that I know we can have and co-create together when we remember. So
Yeah. Yeah. And it sounds like creating you were like grief always makes me think of spaciousness too. It creates spaciousness for us to be with what is and to be with more of what we are wanting to be, even when some of that may not be able to be.
Yeah.
I just think it creates more room.
Right.
And there's something powerful about hearing that grief was a part of this illumination or like deepening for you to go deeper into what matters to you, into what you want to bring forward, into yeah, your truth right now.
Hmm. Thanks, Court. Yeah, grief is that's the way we thaw, right? That's the great thaw, I call it. Like
Yeah.
we have so much to grieve
Yeah.
as a collective, as individuals, and we have those spaces and places to actually grieve and, you know, shed those tears, then yeah, it opens up space to actually be with what's next.
Yeah.
Not with collapsing into what's next immediately, but it's like, oh, at least I was witness and held in that, you know,
Hmm.
so that I could finally release it
Yeah.
instead of cycling in it for another whatever year, 2 years, 3 years, decades,
For sure.
lifetimes.
So true.
Hmm.
Yeah, I think grief is so many things. It is, a shared human language that I wish we didn't have to speak many times, and also is where some of our most, like the deepest depths of who we are and the wisdom we have and the love we contain and can offer. It's all there. Um,
Yeah.
and I think that there's something painfully beautiful about that truth. And um, yeah, I, I'm both grateful and saddened sometimes about the power and beauty of grief. And yeah, I don't know.
Yeah. Because grief can be hard,
It's
man.
hard. It's
It's
hard.
so hard. Sometimes you're just like, oh my gosh, I haven't cried this hard in so long. And now I have a headache. And
Yeah.
oh my gosh, the world is holy. But I mean, I say this all the time, but it's like we have to get really good at grieving.
Yeah.
We
It's
really have to get good at
so
grieving right
much of
now.
life. Yeah.
And it's hard, but it's so alive. Francis Weller always talks about like grief being one of the entry points to soul. And I really believe that. It's like every single time that grief has cracked me open, I'm just like met with deeper parts of myself, humanity, the earth, and what really matters. So
Yeah.
it's like a ripening tool,
Totally. Yeah. It's such a
as a
doorway.
it's such a doorway that sucks, but is like, oh my gosh,
Yeah.
so good. So
I
necessary.
It's so necessary. I feel like I've told this story a lot, so I don't know. I might have told it already on this podcast, but um I I took this course once with these hospice nurses, and it was about grief. And they were talking about how they
Mm,
never were really taught about that, but it's such a massive part of what they did with their job. And so they decided to create this Grief 101, Grief 102 class just for anybody that wanted to take it. And so much from that has stayed with me. But one of the things that they said was that when we grieve, um, the the like peak of, like, if you were to see it kind of on a chart, the peaks
mm,
of what we feel, the immensity of what we feel stays the same throughout the years, but the gaps
mm,
of when we feel it or for like how long we feel it are what changes. So you
mm,
may still, you'll feel something a ton right when it happens if you choose to. And then years down the line, you'll still feel it with the same,
mm.
that same feeling, but it won't be like the long sorrowfulness of that
Yeah.
first allowing yourself to really feel the grief. And I think there was something really powerful about hearing that that made
Mm,
it feel it humanized in its own way this part of life that is very, very human and also can feel like, why on a random Tuesday in the middle of a supermarket did I just feel this immensity? All of a sudden,
mm,
when I think about it that way, I'm like, oh no, that is part of the human experience of grief. That is what it is. And can we embrace that? Can we recognize
mm.
it's like body wisdom?
Feel safe enough in this supermarket to just like
Yeah, right.
let it take me, crack me. You're just like, wow.
Yeah.
Mm,
Yeah. And where does that guide us? Like, I see grief as it definitely has us do our own thing sometimes and have to go into somewhat of solitude, but I see it as like a great connector. It is a massive, massive, massive connection point tool. Invitation. I'm going to use invitation over and over again in this in this conversation.
this is shared human experience,
Yes.
right?
Yeah.
You are alive. You will likely grieve.
Hmm. Right.
Like
Yeah.
you're living, you're grieving,
Yeah.
especially at this time on the planet. But it's like
Hmm.
if you're breathing, you're grieving,
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
and yeah, you're right. Yeah, I mean, I'll just share from my personal experiences. I really didn't touch the depths of grief, really,
Mm.
like in my teens and up in probably my early 20s, because it was just like everything seemed to be quote unquote good and fine. And
Yeah.
I feel very blessed for that. Like I didn't experience anything massive in my family system or any really close deaths of anybody I knew. So it was like grief wasn't really like a big player. Although I definitely had lots of grief and rage suppressed under the surface of that facade of like everything's good. But then my divorce in my early 20s just oh, oh my gosh, cracked me open. It was like I could finally see in HD vivid color all of life. I could relate to humanity better. I could relate to everyone more because I was like, oh, I know pain. And like, wow, this human experience can be really painful at times. And
Hmm.
so it's just like, right? Empathy.
Hmm. Yeah. That's
And
exactly what it opens. Yeah.
so I'm so grateful for all the times that I'm like cracked open deeper
Yeah.
and like deeper. And it's like, oh, okay. Yep. Yep. There's more here.
Mm.
There's more here to remember and to reconnect to and empathize for.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Which I think is, it's really powerful because a lot of, conversations you and I have been getting up to, and you mentioned it a bit here too, is where also does life invite us to go to not only live in the pain, to
Mm.
not only live, or to not only see life as challenging.
Yeah.
And I think there's something interesting there too of, um, can we allow ourselves to really be with grief and to realize the connection, the deeper connection that that invites us into together,
Mm.
the authenticity that if, that is its own currency between us when we really feel like we're being human together. And
Yeah.
we're also what, if we were blocking that, we're also might we have been blocking that in joy and getting to actually feel things like that as well. Where are we shutting that down too? If we're
Yeah.
stuffing stuff down where we're like, I don't need to grieve, we also might be doing that with joy as well, even if on the outside we might seem like
Yeah.
a more joyful being. Are we actually allowing ourselves to feel
Mm.
that? Or is there guilt when we feel that? Or is there a feeling of like, I can't even, that feels too vulnerable to lean into and express? And so I'm just going to live here on the surface of what I think should be, as a brilliant protective mechanism and coping strategy. I think there's things there that are linked.
I love you. There's something linked there.
There's something majorly linked
There's
there.
something major. I mean, in my experience, I would say yes. When we expand our capacity to feel any emotion, it goes in every direction,
Yeah.
right? Just the depth of what we're able to touch and feel and expand into.
This actually feels like the sweetest of segues into um, into asking about something that you and I are getting to so beautifully co-create, which is the sweet invitation of anchored abundance. And I would love to hear, yeah, just where your heart is at with that offering, anything that you're wanting to share about it. I feel like
Mm.
so much of what we've been talking about today too naturally speaks to so much of what we're going to get up to in that container. But yeah, just open invitation for anything that's speaking to your heart, especially as the question you're living into is how you're living into this work right now. And this feels like
Yeah.
a new invitation into that.
Mm. Yeah. So anchored abundance is, it almost felt like the necessary journey that was like, that has been walking me through my whole path of maiden to mother, of codependency to interdependency. And a lot of that is rooted in the ability to receive, the ability to slow down, soften, open, and surrender into deeper trust with all of life, with myself, with my soul, with my work. And so I've offered Anchored, which is my 16-week core program, and really was helping women unhook from codependent patterns and just ways that they were incongruent in the dynamic of receiving and giving. So this feels like a zoom into that dynamic specifically, into, yeah, how can we stay anchored in who we are and still open, or I should say, and open into deeper levels of abundance. And I'm not just talking monetarily there, I'm talking like spaciousness, time, energy, um, resource. And so much of that is for me is really a both and of like, how do I create the structures, the containers, the support scaffolding in my life to be able to weave my work in this world,
Mm.
in this chapter. So that's kind of what I'm holding, is like more possibility in what this gets to look like for us while we align deeper with where we're at in each season of our life and what roles we're playing and how do we find congruence and coherence in all of that.
Ooh. Yeah, something that was coming up for me is why or what do you feel that anchored abundance offers to the world when we actually are,
Mm,
when we actually have a relationship with what abundance really is, when we're actually
yeah.
anchored in those those things that allow us to be with the reality of what abundance is as
Mm.
as an invitation, as something that is just natural. Um, what
It
what
feels like
would
a
change in the world? Sorry.
your ability to relate
Hmm.
to the world from a space or state of enoughness.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like trusting in your own enoughness, trusting in your own medicine of enoughness, like that it's enough. I've dealt with that so much of like, oh, I need to be all these other things. And it's like, no, actually, you need to be who you are. That is enough.
Mm.
And so it's like there's that self piece, right? But then there's like the deeper layers too of, for me, reconnecting to the earth, reconnecting to the elemental beings, reconnecting to source and divine, um, in really deep, profound ways that um, allow the energy to flow again, like
Mm.
it was designed to.
Yeah. 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 It sounds like deep cellular healing beyond the cells of just a human body. It's like, it's just in everything.
It's in everything. It's our relationship to life.
Hmm. Yeah.
Instead of relating from extraction of like, I need, like,
Mhm.
this like hunger, it's like, no, we actually fill and heal the root wound, which is
Mhm.
our severance from the earth, which is our severance from the body and
Yeah.
from others and from life.
Hmm.
And when we actually tend to that, then, oh my goodness,
Mm.
there's just, yeah, so much beauty in life
Yeah.
available to us all.
And that's so powerful too, because I think abundance a lot of times tends to be, yeah, it tends to be conflated with or like tangled up in extraction. And I think
Mm-hmm.
there's, if there's like an abundance for one person, then there isn't for another. And if we're looking at it like that, that can be a really hard understanding of the word abundance. Why would I want to have a
Yeah.
relationship with that then?
Mm-hmm.
And what I'm hearing you tease out here is that it actually isn't connected to extraction. What if we actually related differently with the natural etymology of the word abundance, the actual really like the natural relationship that we can have with the word abundance or that is available um, to that experience in life? What does that actually look like? And what medicine does that offer? I think is just a really profound question to live into.
Yeah, and it's one I'm really excited to continue to live into with other humans.
Yeah.
You know, um, I was talking to Jackie, one of my dear friends today, and she was just like, "Isn't it wild that we like in a family system we have like 9 cars, we're all doing," and I'm just like, I know, what are we doing? Like, we're all striving to make it work in this system. And obviously this is a much larger conversation, but um, I think of abundance as congruence.
Mm,
Like I feel abundant and rooted in my body being when I am living congruently,
mm, mm.
like from the roots up. I am in right relation from the roots up. And then, like, I trust that I am supported. I trust that what's meant for me will be for me. I trust the reciprocal nature of life, you
Yeah.
know?
Yeah.
So
That's
that's
that
my
is.
prayer for humanity.
I was like, that is anchored abundance. That
That is it, baby.
that is it. I am so excited to be on that journey with you and all of the humans that have and will continue to join us on it. Um, Thank you, Kai, for diving into this beautiful conversation, continued living into the questions, which is simply what life is. I continue to
Mm,
keep discovering. Um,
yeah.
if people would like to continue to have conversations with you or be in spaces with you, what is the best way for them to be connected to you?
So the best place to connect with me now, since I totally apparently am off Instagram as of this conversation. No, I'm just kidding. Is Substack. And you can find me at Kylie McBeath at Substack. Those are
Wonderful.
the best places. Yeah. Thanks, Court. It's so fun jamming with you as always.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. I love you dearly. And I'm just so excited for you to continue living into this question. And it's such a gift to get to be a part of even a piece of it with you.
Love you so much, Court. Thank you.